I've asked around the league as well over the last 24 hours.
Good morning. How's morale today? 615-737-1045. That's how you join in. We got a lot of moving parts. Jackson, I don't know who the hell's going to talk to us today at 11:15, but some player for the Tennessee Titans is going to make his way to the podium. Mike Vrabel also scheduled to speak again today. Titans did a little bit of work yesterday, but officially on the practice field today ahead of the Falcons game. There is news from Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network, which I suppose is where we'll start. We told you guys that there was a lot of discussion about Will Levis and the starting quarterback proposition. Would they actually employ a two-quarterback system? Yes, Jackson.
Oh, that Rappaport audio is ready.
Oh, well, love that for us. Okay. You'll hear from Ian Rappaport. As a matter of fact, who went to air with news this morning at, I think, a little before. It felt like 7 a.m., a little before 7 a.m. today.
Yeah.
And, before we play this rap sheet audio, Taylor Lewan is going to want credit for this. Because they cowardly, or in a way that was cowardly, put out the news breaking maybe from Bussin' with the Boys that Lewan was hearing that Will Levis was going to start this game against the Falcons. So, technically, I suppose we should give them credit, but I'm not.
Audio as well.
I don't want that audio. Well, actually, let's hear that audio, shall we? Do you have that ready?
Well, you give me a second.
Okay. This is something that people were talking about for a couple of days now. Mike, I think, threw everybody into a tizzy yesterday. Understandably so, because, I mean, of course you're going to be like, why the hell are we even talking about the idea of playing two quarterbacks? And realistically, I think there's still a I still think you're going to see Malik. It's just that who the primary quarterback is going to be, apparently first reported or not reported by Taylor Lewan.
And I actually forgot to mention this. I believe I have breaking news that will come out in the next couple of weeks.
Oh.
Next couple of days, excuse me. Will Levis will start the Tennessee Titans. Against the
No.
Atlanta Falcons. I'm telling you.
Will Levis, breaking news, busting with the boys. Need the clip right now. Busting with the boys, breaking this. Taylor Lewan, Taylor Rappaport, Will.
He's full of bleep, but also he's right. He gets to be right today, and that's fine. But Will Levis, this is something that we thought was going to be the case. We knew Ryan Tannehill wasn't going to be able to go on Sunday, and so now Will Levis, in a primary function, is going to be the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. That make you feel good?
Exciting. It's something new.
Are you excited? You don't look excited.
I'm interested.
You look
I'm
scared.
Intrigued. I'm intrigued. I'm not scared.
You look scared.
I'm not scared. I'm intrigued.
Okay. What's the line between scared and intrigued?
It's very close.
Because I think it could be both. I think it could be scary. I think it is fascinating. Listen, I want them to go full science experiment. All right? If they're not going to be legitimately good, let's make this thing just something manufactured in the lab. Why not? This was kind of the season I was hoping for before the year started. Hopkins kind of ruined my plans of just, house money. There's no stakes. Let's just see how many problems that they can cause throughout the course of an NFL season. Now we've regressed back to that point for reasons that are beyond anybody's control. And now I feel like I get a fresh start on this thing. 8 weeks into the season, I get my science experiment, and you get to watch Will Levis play on Sunday. Mostly.
I might be more scared for him.
Yeah, you don't feel good about it.
I'm like, okay, bud, like this ain't the best situation.
But and I don't want to compare him to CJ Stroud, because to be honest with you, when I watch Stroud, and I had more time to watch him over the course of the last couple of days, just with more free time on my hands and coming out of a bye week, watching CJ Stroud, he reminds me of Joe Burrow. Now, I'm not talking about physical ability or from a stature standpoint, but when I watch how comfortable he is at diagnosing what's out there, isolating and eliminating, his touch on the ball, I think that's a more apt comparison for the level of readiness from a rookie quarterback coming in not a great situation, because would you say that CJ Stroud has overwhelmingly more support on offense than does whomever is playing quarterback for the Titans on Sunday? I mean, the offensive line has played better than the Titans' offensive line, but it's not a good offensive line. They are getting their parts back. They have gotten pieces back with Tunsil coming back and, Titus Howard coming back off IR. So I think he's going to be in an improved situation moving forward, but it's not like CJ Stroud has had greatness in front of him. But I think, for all the reasons that the offensive line has been a concern for the past season plus, that for Will Levis's sake, you hope that he can make the most out of a situation that was pretty untenable for a veteran quarterback. Now, we're going to talk about what this should mean for Ryan Tannehill today as well, because I do think that this has, much larger implications beyond, all right, Malik, what are we going to do with your skill set? How are we going to incorporate you into the offense? How are we going to keep the Falcons on their heels on Sunday? Because believe it or not, they're still out there trying to win a football game. That was something that they were resolute about. I'm sure Mike Vrabel will emphasize that point when he speaks at 11. I'm sure whomever talks to us at 11:15, whether it's Tannehill or otherwise, because right now, they haven't officially ruled Tannehill out, but I think at some point this week, Tannehill is going to speak. It's just a matter of, when are you going to do it, or if he's going to do it. I have no idea at this point. They have not yet told us who they're going to trot out at the podium. We'll leave it at that.
Do you think they know who they're going to trot out to the podium?
I think they have a general idea.
Nothing concrete.
I think they have a general idea. Now, given that this is happening in an hour, I would imagine that they have a more concrete idea than they did when I was asking people an hour and a half ago. But somebody is going to speak. It's normally a quarterback on Wednesday. I don't know that they would give away the bag after Mike Vrabel just spent 20 minutes trolling everybody yesterday, saying, yes, I would anticipate both quarterbacks to play. And then what did he tell Rex Road? Make sure you write that down, Joe.
He was in rare form yesterday.
Oh, it's because he's over it. I mean,
he was feeling himself a little bit.
Well, it's good to see some fight. You know,
it was good. He was in rare form. We'll get to some other things he had to say later.
Indeed. Jared Stillman is my dumbest thing in sports this week, which delights me because Jared is a friend, and I know he's also going to enjoy hearing his name read into a microphone over and over and over again. But we'll save that for later in the show. But seriously, like with Vrabel being a little spicy with people yesterday, thank God, like Mike, he gets this way during the season, and nobody wants to talk to us as much as he has to talk to us. Like, I sympathize. I don't want to talk to me as much as Mike Vrabel has to talk to media on a regular basis. But he does, it gets to be a point where he's kind of playing with his food type of situation, and you think he looks checked out. I think he looks bored. And the answer is probably a combination of both, plus the idea of we are wasting time, that I should be preparing for the Atlanta Falcons, and however the hell I'm going to manufacture together a football team that can try and win a game on Sunday as a waste of time. But he doesn't have to show fight in a press conference to make me feel better about their situation. But the fact that he showed some signs of life makes me at least, I don't know, acknowledge that there's a pulse there. Because for the last couple of weeks, it sure as hell hasn't felt like it. It just feels like, okay, you're avoiding the inevitable to a degree, right? Where he's given, they're posting his post-game victory speeches on their social media channels, and he's saying, we're just getting rolling, and then they get dunked on by the Cleveland Browns 27-3. And then you get your feet back under you, you flip the script, you do the same thing to the Bengals. And then you have the result against the Colts that you do, followed up by that stinky Ravens game. And what? We're selling things for parts. What are you getting rolling towards? So show me something authentic, right? Show me something that makes me feel like you have this fight in you, because it's going to be. I mean, the rest of the season is now a fight. A fight for, I don't think Mike Vrabel is in danger of losing his job next year, but I think the clock officially starts, I don't think Mike Vrabel is in danger of losing his job this year. I think that the clock on that very, very, very much starts next season. I think that the coaching staff, players, front office people, everybody, when you start selling things off and keep trying to sell, which we'll get to Derrick Henry later, because quiet as that was not 24 hours ago, it seems like a market has picked up, and we'll discuss some details on that probably after the press conferences. But they are in for a fight. And, whether you want to see them fight or you'd rather see them tank, I guess that's up to you. What are you laughing about back there?
Mark in the F&M Bank chat says, Buck is a little Sheldon, wordy and nerdy, never played the game. Made me laugh.
That's pretty good. Have you ever seen that show? I've seen commercials for it my entire life. I've never seen a second of that show.
I don't know how many seasons it feels like that show's been on the air for decades. I
feel like young Sheldon is actually older than me. I feel like he's Benjamin Button.
There's no way that show's still on the air, right?
I can't think of the last time that I've watched commercials for anything, just because of streaming and the ability to DVR and fast forward through everything, or just a general short attention span because I've got my phone in my face 12 hours a day. Anyway, wordy and nerdy. I like that. Put it on the gravestone. 615-737-1045 is the number. Let's see if Jason can give me a break from the wordiness.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Great.
Okay, so my question is, and obviously, when you make a decision as a GM, like, you can't dwell on it if you made a good or a bad decision. Like, whatever decision you make, you have to go with it and stick with it so you don't, hurt yourself in your head. But my question is, is Ryan Cawthorn kicking himself a little bit right now? Instead of trading Kevin Byard before the season started and trading him now, would they have got a better deal of that trade? I feel like that's my question.
Well, I appreciate the call, Jason. I mean, Byard called their bluff, right? They asked for a pay cut, and he said, "No, I'm good," and ultimately ended up doing what is more of a pay cut in the way that they reconfigured his deal. But I mean, yeah, I get maybe. I don't know how Rand feels about the situation. All I know is that the foundation for these moves, they're fail-safe, let's say. And this is a question that I would like to ask Rand Carthon, because I don't want to, I don't know what the logic was, but I can see the logic for starting the season, trying to field a competitive team, putting a stopgap on this Week 7 bye and saying, all right, if we're not X by this point, then we need to seriously reevaluate what direction we're heading with the roster that we've put together, and giving themselves the financial cushion, one, to be able to make some of these moves, but also to put them in a position, we're going to talk about this with Derrick Henry later, to potentially buy a pick, with Derrick Henry as kind of the catalyst for a deal. Because I think that is something that's very much in play. We'll explain the logic on that later on. Your phone calls are welcome. Like I said, somebody is going to speak to the media. Mike Vrabel, I know, is going to speak to the media. He spoke yesterday, going to speak again today. God knows who's going to follow him. But we will carry those press conferences for you. We also have the dumbest thing in sports this week, with a little Titans flavor to that as well. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. People are already fighting in the chat about the quarterback situation. Tannehill. You guys, he's not playing on Sunday. Breathe. Welcome back to the show. 615-737-1045. It's something that I can always rely on, Jackson. The chat, the F&M Bank chat, where you can interact on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We love them, but they're all insane. And every day there's a fight about Ryan Tannehill. Every day. We could be talking about live golf and Saudi blood money, and there'll be an argument about Ryan Tannehill in my comment section. That's just drowning me for 3 hours a day.
Death, taxes, and fighting about Ryan Tannehill in the F&M Bank chat.
Marcus Mariota was the same way, polarizing for reasons that are just beyond me. But we will talk about Ryan Tannehill and what the Will Levis start should mean for him moving forward as he recovers from this high ankle sprain that he's dealing with, on the same ankle that he had surgery on after last year's situation. In the meantime, Jackson has been trying to come up with a bet. He likes when Bert and Lucas get me to do things on the air that usually elicit great shame from me, but are great for, to point and laugh at. So what are you concocting back there with Halloween around the corner?
I want, if Will Levis and the Titans win against the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday, you do Tuesday's show, Halloween, in a mayonnaise costume.
Now, I'm having to pay for the mayonnaise costume? You're not buying me the mayonnaise costume, right?
I will not purchase a mayonnaise costume.
Okay. So this is something that's coming out of my pocket? So what do I
probably expense it.
I mean, so one, you're setting me up against the audience. You are, because to avoid wearing the mayonnaise costume, I would then be rooting against the success of Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans, which they already think that I do. So you're putting me in a pretty bad spot here, bud. So what do I mean, because if you give me something if they lose, then it's going to look like you're rewarding me for rooting against the Titans. You see the conflict that you've created for me here?
Yes.
Okay. I'm tempted to do it. I mean, I don't think we've ever done a show on Halloween. At least I can't think of one.
Last year was a weekday, so you probably should have.
Okay, maybe we should have. Maybe it was a bye week. I don't remember, but I'm down to do costumes on Tuesday. And if Levis wins, I'll go find a damn mayonnaise jar costume. You think they got to? Well, I can't wear Hellman's. People in the South will run me out of town. I got to find a Duke's if you're out there. We don't ask for free things on the radio very often, but if you have a full-sized 6'2", what am I, 195 as of this morning? If you have a mayonnaise-sized costume that would fit a person of my stature, I would take it off your hands for at least Tuesday's show.
Or we could give you a mayo bath.
No, I don't want a mayo bath. No, I don't want that. I like mayonnaise. Don't ruin it for me. Anyway, speaking of ruining things, hopefully the Titans don't ruin Will Levis in his first career start. Now, Ryan Tannehill was let's get to some phone calls before we play some Ryan Tannehill audio for you, because I do think that this has big time implications for Tannehill, or at least it should, regardless of what he looks like on Sunday, good or bad, meaning Levis. Let's go first to, is it just AZ, Jackson, in Nashville?
Yeah, I got some Ryan Tannehill audio. If he ain't throw them 3 interceptions against Cincinnati, the core of his team probably still be here, and we wouldn't be thinking about trading Derrick Henry also. So I'm all right with getting rid of Tannehill. But like I said, I'm moving forward. I know that we've been trying to patch up some things. So outside of Dillard and a couple of other players, I'm trying to ask you, can you give us your take on how the new draft picks and some of the free agent signings have been so far, like a slight grade on Rand Carthon's picks or whatever. Thank you.
I appreciate the call. Listen, people are going to hold that game against Ryan Tannehill for the rest of his life here in town. Like that is what it is. But I think on the players that Rand has brought in, all right, so let's go down the list, shall we? Who are the primary free agents that you associate? Because there were a handful. They didn't have a lot of money to spend, but they spread it across a variety of different positions out of need. So who are the players that come to mind immediately when you talk about Rand Carthon's free agents?
Azeez
Al-Share, Andre Dillard,
Key.
Arden Key,
Hopkins,
DeAndre Hopkins, Sean Murphy-Bunting, the corner,
Chris Moore,
the wide receiver, and we can go down the line with guys like Luke Gifford, special teams linebacker, but let's start with those 6 free agents, and then we'll talk about the draft class, okay? Chris Moore, plus. Chris Moore has been out there. He's been available. I know he got a concussion. We'll see what his availability is for this week. I don't believe Vrabel was asked yesterday if he cleared the protocol. I assume he'll be asked today if he cleared the protocol. Vrabel did note that Treylon Burks did practice all last week in the work that they were able to do. That's a good sign. But in the absence of Treylon Burks, Chris Moore has been a good player, beyond the hit from, I'm blanking on the safety, Kyle Hamilton for the Baltimore Ravens, the hit that got him ejected. So I'm in on Chris Moore. That's a good signing. Arden Key, where are you, bud? He's the hype man, but beyond the Saints game, I haven't gotten enough really consistently from Arden Key. He hasn't been a difference maker yet. Now, I think that there's a lot of stuff to like about their front. I think they are still disruptive. I think he has a role to play. But in terms of and I'm not going to box score scout him because I know that the measure of a pass rusher is not sacks. That's a measure of a pass rush. The measure of a pass rusher is the pressures the quarterback hits, but he's underwhelmed there so far. So I need more out of Arden Key because him and Danico Autry basically got the same contract, and you can tell me who's worth more of their money there, Danico Autry on a 3-year, $21.5 million deal, or Arden Key basically on the same contract. Dillard fail, right? Dillard we're out on. Dillard they're out on. They benched him in the Ravens game. NPF's job moving forward. If Dillard plays again, it's because something's happened to NPF. So Dillard, we are out. Alshare has had moments. The Colts game was a really, really bad game for him and Jack Gibbons. The defense in general did not have a good game against the Colts after Jeff got hurt. But Alshare, I'm more in on than not, for sure. Voted team captain in his first year right away. I'm good with that. And then Hopkins, he's the leading receiver right now for the Titans. He's the most reliable player that you have on offense right now. And because of a variety of different things that are beyond his control, he's not been able to produce at a level that he would like. Story of his career, right? He's worked with a lot of bad quarterback situations. This is one to add to his lengthy resume of such situations. So, on the whole, free agents, given the lack of money that you had to spend, I felt they did okay with it. Skoronski, day 1 starter. Levis, we're about to bleep around and find out, kids.
Day 7 starter, essentially.
Day 7 starter?
Yeah. What I'm going with.
Okay.
It's game 7, so each game counts as a day. If you're calling Peter Skoronski a day 1 starter, Levis would be a day 7 starter.
Okay. Unnecessary detail.
At least I didn't make a pun.
It could have happened. We'll find out with Levis. Spears, yes, right? All for Tajay Spears. No 4th-round pick. So Josh Wiley, started sluggish. The preseason was a struggle for him. He's been out there and been consistently adapting to not just their passing game, but their blocking scheme. I'm good with Josh Wiley. Jalen Duncan is not a factor. He's not been active to this point, so we'll leave him, without a grade thus far. So on the whole, and then Colton Dowell, on the whole, draft class, at least contributing. Levis, we'll find out how much more he can contribute, how much better he makes you feel about that draft class, especially given that you traded up to get him. On the whole, Rand Carthon has done as much as he could with not a lot of room to work between draft capital or lack thereof and cap space or lack thereof. Titans tried to field. It felt like they did give an honest effort in fielding a competitive football team this year. And those plans didn't go to plan. So now, here you are in this situation where your hand's been forced, and Ryan Tannehill's going to miss some time, and it's taking this injury for you to remove him from the lineup. Do we see a situation where Tannehill should be put back into the lineup once he's healthy? Because honestly, he would want to play. He is a competitor. He is in a contract year. He, of course, wants another bite at the apple, and putting him on the bench with the kind of results that he's had thus far, not going to help him make any money. Now, that's not your job. But I think regardless of whether he returns to full health or not, it should be Levis's job the rest of the way. I really think that this should effectively end the Ryan Tannehill era in Tennessee, because what are we doing now if not, one, prolonging the inevitable, and two, missing opportunities to find out if this second-round pick can actually be a viable option moving forward. Because if for no other reason, whether he can or he can't, Will Levis, you have to find out. Because you're going to have to make critical decisions specifically around that position this offseason. And if you're arming yourself with some draft capital, first from the Byard trade, we'll see if they can move Henry. There's going to be a discussion about that in the noon hour, because I think that is becoming more and more viable by the passing day. But if you can arm yourself with the capital to give yourself yet another cushion, don't be afraid to move on from a Will Levis situation if you find out enough about him this season. But you have to find out. Ryan Tannehill may ultimately, when healthy, hasn't been the case this year, that coaching staff still believed him to be the best chance that they have to win football games. But I think that they can still be as competitive as they have been and benefit from playing the rookie. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. We'd love to have you. How about Ray and Smyrna next?
Hey, how are y'all?
Great.
Good. So I had a quick question about the new secondary.
Mm-hmm.
With the fifth and the sixth draft pick coming in, fifth round, sixth round for Byard, and then bringing in Terrell Edmonds, just curious on where you see him fitting. It looks like he's got 77 starts, all at safety, but it looks like he's more of an in-box safety and not a coverage guy. So how do you feel maybe Molden and Hooker, and who fits where? And I'll get off and listen. Thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Ray. Cosell and I are going to talk about this a lot deeper tomorrow. He's actually based out of Philadelphia, so and goes to Eagles practice on a regular basis, so he'll be able to give you more positional insight. But I would expect that Molden is your Byard solution in the immediate. Now, again, you got to find out about Elijah Molden. You're still relying for as much John Robinson bashing as has been done, and most of it earned at this point, even though he gave you a successful period of time. The back half of that, you got to split it up into two different periods of John Robinson's tenure. The first couple years and the last couple years. And those are two very different stories there. But you're still relying on a lot of those pieces that he put into place to come through for you. And here's Elijah Molden with an opportunity. His biggest drawback, like Christian Fulton, right, has been lack of availability. We thought we saw something from him in his rookie season. The groin injury cost him a ton of time last year. Now he's been getting some work at safety and is a viable option for them in certain defensive settings. But he's going to be given a more, well, maybe not a full-time role and maybe not given, but he is going to be in position to earn this starting job now. And they can roll Elijah Molden out there for the immediate, and if it doesn't work, they can reevaluate the situation. But Terrell Edmonds has only started 3 games this season for the Eagles. Now, obviously, they're only, 7 games into the season, and he's played in every game. But he had been relegated out of a full-time role after taking a 1-year deal as a former first-round pick of the Pittsburgh Steelers. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. How about the Beard in the Borough?
Hey, man, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, sweet. So my question was, what do you need to see from Will Levis for him to be considered a success for this game anyway and moving forward?
I appreciate the call. That's a good question. So what are the things that are that are the reasons why Malik Willis isn't going to be put out there? Let's start there as the groundwork. Malik Willis holds onto the ball entirely too long. He is an athlete, a high-level athlete, but not as good of an athlete as I think that he thinks he is at the NFL level, if that makes sense. Based on the continued continued moments or the continued kind of predisposition to escape and to utilize his escapability, which he can do it sometimes. But again, he was sacked 4 times in a quarter in relief of Ryan Tannehill. That was as many times as Baker Mayfield had been sacked to that point through 6 weeks of football in the entire season. That you can't have that. So he's not creating those moments where, because of a bad offensive line, he's able to provide escapability. And even then, there are issues with like holding penalties because he's trying to prolong things for too long. Will Levis has to be able to operate cleanly. I don't expect him to play a perfect game. If he turns the ball over, I'm not going to be surprised. He's going to see some throws out there that would be open in college that are not going to be open in the pros. And, I mean, you can be sure that Arthur Smith and the Falcons coaching staff and front office have scouted Will Levis as well. So they're going to know what his strengths and weaknesses are. I need to see him operate with confidence, just base level stuff. I need to see him operate with confidence. I need to see him get rid of the ball. I need to see him live for another down. Don't take sacks. That is the problem with the last 2 quarterbacks. Ryan Tannehill hangs in there for the throw. He's one of the toughest dudes on that football team. And when you're working behind an offensive line that's not going to give you a fraction more of a second, you're going to get got. He invites sacks, Tannehill. Malik Willis, right now, also invites sacks. The fastest way to kill these drives for a team that can't, for the life of them, score more than 17.5 points per game and aren't even scoring that right now. Sacks will kill you. Live to see another down. Just play as clean a football game as humanly possible. Base level operation. That's all I need to see. And if he makes some rookie mistakes, maybe you're not going to forgive him for it, but you're going to understand that he's going to have those moments as he sees more actual live game action for the first time since damn August. We'll take more of your phone calls throughout the course of the show. We've got SEC observations. Lucas isn't here, but Jackson is going to do a tremendous job with them. Don't forget, you're going to hear from one of the Titans players. We don't know if it's going to be Ryan Tannehill. We don't know that it's not going to be Ryan Tannehill. Either way, that's happening at 11:15 today. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. Hope you are having a great Wednesday. Weather has been beautiful all week long. I feel like, despite feeling like the walls are falling down around us, it's been a lovely week. Titans back on the practice field. Here in just a little bit, you'll hear from head coach Mike Vrabel and players TBD. We'll find out who's going to be at the podium at 11:15. I'm sorry, Jackson. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Just going to say you couldn't ask for better weather. It's been a perfect fall weather.
Great day to watch the world burn. So, since Lucas is out somewhere in the mountains of Gatlinburg, apparently, I did touch base with him yesterday to ensure that he hasn't been eaten by any wildlife out there. God knows what he's doing out in the woods. Do we know if he's by himself? Do we know if he's with Megan? I hope that he has adult supervision because God knows what Lucas does for a whole week. I don't know who the hell spends a week in Gatlinburg, first and foremost. That sounds like the behavior of a sociopath.
He's with Megan. That's what he told me.
How much fudge can you eat? Honestly.
You can camp. You can go to the aquarium.
I don't want to go to a sad aquarium in Gatlinburg. None of those fish have any business being up on that mountain. None of them. They don't want to be there.
Sad aquarium.
Sad aquarium.
When I was in middle school, we took a school trip and we slept in the big shark tunnel thing.
Oh God, that would be alarming. I don't think I'd like that very much.
I wasn't a fan.
All right, Lucas isn't here. That's obviously Jackson. Jackson, you are responsible for this week's SEC observations.
Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Nick Saban and Josh Heupel in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Brian Kelly and Greg Sankey in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC.
Somebody said in the F&M Bank chat, I know one thing. Lucas didn't forget his AirPods. Go ahead, Jackson.
I think we need to sit in that for a second.
No, Caleb Farley. I need him to play. I need him to play to keep that damn drop alive.
It's so great.
It sounds mean when I say it, but it is the only meaningful contribution that man has made to this football team. Since his arrival here, I need him to play to make that drop matter because it's too good. I want to still be able to rebuke things in the name of Jesus. Anyway.
I think it should live on, no matter what.
Proceed.
All right, so these are the SEC observations, and I think a lot of the biggest story in college football right now is the Michigan sign stealing scandal, and it has crept its way into the SEC. Michigan's now suspended staff member Connor Stallions bought a ticket to the Tennessee football game against Kentucky. Ironically, I believe the last game Will Levis started in the state of Tennessee.
Oh.
He also bought tickets involving Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, and Oregon last season. All of these teams were in the college football playoff. Only team in the initial college football playoff ranking that he did not buy a ticket to see them play last season. You want to know?
Yes.
TCU. The team they played and lost to in the semifinals on New Year's Eve. And so what he would do is he would buy tickets to these games, and then he would transfer them to other associates who would sit on the sideline in viewing angle of these signs and use illegal recording things that the NCAA is preparing to present and release. But it's crazy that this has made it all the way to the SEC because it was a Big Ten story last week, but it is fully an SEC story as of now.
They have their best opportunity, Michigan does, to win the title that I can remember in a long, long time, and they're going to blow it because of sign stealing. Like, doesn't it feel like we're heading towards some kind of suspension?
It's not good.
I mean, this whether you think that this is a serious infraction or not, because listen, you have to beat them anyway. But you also have to enter into competition with a level of understanding that the playing field, even or the whatever the contest is going to be as evenly footed as humanly possible beyond things that like home field advantage, right? That there is going to be nothing actively working against another team that shouldn't be there. No nefarious presences as this appears to be. It's silly. You still got to go out there and play football. But I understand why, and listen, I think the NCAA is toothless. I think that their word really means nothing. So whatever level of punishment that they think they're going to impose, hell, they couldn't even get Jim Harbaugh suspended earlier this season, right? They botched that.
They said no.
For cheeseburgers.
The team said no. The university said no.
You couldn't stand up to Michigan over a cheeseburger scandal. Now you're going to do something to Harbaugh and Michigan when they're rolling towards your national championship? Probably not. But if they were to bring down significant punishments on Michigan, I don't know if that would be in the middle of the season or if this would be a situation where, like, if Michigan wins the title or is the NCAA in a position to revoke, like, wins and things like that, to vacate wins? I have no idea.
They can do that. Tennessee had to vacate all of the Pruitt wins.
Right. So how much further this gets along for Connor Stallions, the suspended Michigan staffer, who is at the heart of this controversial sign-stealing issue. How much further it gets is going to be interesting. But the fact that it does extend beyond the conference that they were playing in, going... And the irony of not doing it with the TCU team that ended up beating them in the Final Four is laugh out loud funny and also karma. Should have cheated all the way.
You tried to do 90% cheating? Well, the 10% came back to bite you, bud.
That's effort. That's a culture problem. Fix that, Harbaugh.
If you're going to cheat, go all in.
Isn't football... Finish.
Did not finish his block.
Did not finish his block. 615-737-1045. Brandon Rushing says, sounds like that guy had a pretty sweet gig. Yeah, just get paid to go to games, take videos
pictures.
of sign signals or of signals and signs and things of that nature, and sneak on back to Michigan, sneak on back to Ann Arbor to present your findings to the grand pair of khakis. Excellent.
I like to think like they're in like a glass case until game day.
The khakis?
Yes, they're in like the center of the locker room. There's just this glass case that rotates.
It has to rotate. I was just going to say, it has to rotate.
It's got the khakis.
It has to be properly lit. It's like, what's that terrible Steve Carell movie, The Tuxedo or whatever, where he's the tuxedo turns him into like a weapon of mass destruction, basically.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I think it's called The Tuxedo. Bert would make fun of me for my terrible pop culture references because I don't actually watch any movies. But there is a movie to that effect where this suit gives him superpowers. And I don't know if the khakis give Harbaugh superpowers or if they just make him a goob. I don't know what to do with Jim Harbaugh.
You're not talking about the mask, right?
Not the mask. No.
Okay.
No.
Just want to make sure.
No, I'm pretty sure it's called The Tuxedo. I could be completely wrong about this. Bert's just in the other room. We could get him to make fun of me, but we won't. I think he's actually doing work today. Coming up next, you're going to hear from Mike Vrabel. You're going to hear from players TBD. Whether that's Ryan Tannehill or not, well, you just have to tune in and find out. The Gambling Clinic. That is where you can go if you are somebody who is experiencing issues with your gambling habits. The vast majority of people gamble for fun without any problems at all. But about 5% of folks report spending too much money on gambling, getting into arguments at home because of their gambling habits, or other problems that can arise. If that is sounding familiar to you, the Gambling Clinic is a great resource. They have a long-standing international reputation for both their research and their leadership in best practices to help with gambling problems and addiction. The treatment is simple. The goal is to complete 8 to 10 weekly individual sessions with someone trained to help with gambling problems and addiction. People who complete the program generally reduce how often they gamble and how much money they spend on gambling. They are also likely to find relief and increased well-being in your life. Of course, this is something that a lot of people can identify with, and if that fits you, thegamblingclinic.com is where you need to go. That's thegamblingclinic.com. This project is funded by the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services.
It is 11 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. The Titans made a couple of practice squads moves on Tuesday, releasing Jaquez Patrick from the practice squad, signing Joseph Jones and running back Jonathan Ward to the practice squad, as previously reported. Ward returns to the Titans after signing to the practice squad in December of 2022. Ward was brought back this past offseason, had a shot to make Tennessee's roster before he suffered an injury and was waived. Continuing with local news, the Preds lost 3-2 last night to the Vancouver Canucks. Their next game is this Saturday at 6 p.m. against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Couple players around the NFL added to IR yesterday. Panthers add safety Jeremy Chin and outside linebacker Yetur Gross-Matos. Cardinals adding Zach Ertz with a quad strain. He's believed to make a return this season. And the NBA back in action last night as the Nuggets continue their dominance from last season, taking the Lakers down 119-107. Nikola Jokic scoring a triple-double in his first game back after the title. 29 points, 13 rebounds, 11 assists for the Joker. Suns beat the Warriors 108-104. Devin Booker in midseason form, scoring a game-high 32, along to go with 8 assists. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. How's everybody? Lovely to have you here. Got you till 1 o'clock. Mike Vrabel's going to be at the podium here in just a second. I'll carry that press conference for you. Titans and Falcons getting ready to square off at Nissan Stadium this Sunday. We'll have some tickets for you to win to that game tomorrow if you would like to attend. It is the Houston Oilers throwback game. So if for no other reason, Will Levis getting his first start, throwback uniforms, everybody going to be decked out in their blue and red Oilers attire. It is going to be a scene. They'll obviously have the uniform, so for the aesthetics, if not the football, maybe you want to go to the game. Got some tickets for you to win tomorrow to that. We also have tickets to the Preds game this weekend, Jackson, correct?
Yes, it is Winning Wednesday.
Okay, so for the dumbest thing in sports this week, the prize will be a pair of tickets to this upcoming game at Bridgestone Arena. It's the Preds' 25th anniversary season. We've got tickets for you to see them at Bridgestone Arena on Saturday night. Of course, you know how the game is played for the dumbest thing in sports. Don't call yet. Not yet. We'll get to that later. Is Mike Vrabel at the podium? What?
You told me 11:15.
No, I told you Mike is at 11. Players are 11:15. Okay, go get him. We'll hear from the head coach here in just a second. Obviously, I'm sure Mike's going to be asked about the quarterback situation that Ian Rappaport is reporting this morning. Now, we talked about it earlier in the week, that there was a really, really high percentage chance that Will Levis was going to be the starting quarterback. Mike threw a wrench at you yesterday saying that both quarterbacks would play. That's probably still going to be true, but Will Levis is going to be their primary and starting quarterback for Sunday's game against the Falcons. What we learn about Will Levis is going to be fascinating, right? We know that the accuracy issues were something that we talked about in the pre-draft process. We saw some of that play itself out in camp and in preseason. His touch on the ball is something that was under a fair amount of scrutiny, and we also know we haven't seen him in a very long time. So I'll defer to the head coach and let him take over from here.
Defense, we have to run the football, whoever plays quarterback.
Okay.
Whether
Would that
that's
be
Ryan.
Switching series, or would that be like one guy's the starter and one guy's
No, we'll figure out the game plan as we work through the week. We may run the plays in with them. It could be by series, could be every 2 series. It could have certain things that we like. We'll see where where Ryan is, and but again, I'm excited if Ryan can't play that both we'll get a look at both of those quarterbacks, and we'll need both of them to help us win, and Falcons are doing some really good things.
You don't mind the adage that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback?
No, I don't. don't buy that adage. We got 3 on the roster, and we'll see where Ryan is with his ankle, and go from there.
The hip drop, the tackle might
go ahead, Kayla.
Been a lot in the
Kayla, go ahead.
When it comes to Desmond Ritter, and just in terms of how he's coming along, what do you see positive out of him? And then just in terms of he has had some issues with holding on to the football, and how can you take advantage of that?
We have to. I mean, I think that he's made some really, really outstanding plays. I don't anticipate the quarterback center exchange that he had, but teams have done a good job trying to get the ball away from him. We have to do a better job of that. Defensively, we understand that. We've done some good things on defense. I would say that we're not turning the ball over as much as we should or attempting it. So again, he's made some really nice throws. He's thrown where guys can run. He's thrown good seam balls, but he's also athletic, and he'll take off and run and convert. Go ahead, John.
You said that the hip drop tackle seems to be in the news quite a bit. Something the league, I guess, is going to take a look at. Curious as somebody on the competition committee, your thoughts on that, and was that one that injured Tannehill?
It was, and in the pocket, and I don't know what the answer is. I don't want players to get hurt, but I also want to give defenders an opportunity to make a play. It's hard on skilled players. It's hard sometimes in space. That was not in space, and so there's going to be defenders that are smaller or bigger, maybe not as fast as other players with football. I don't know what the answer is. I know the answer is that we want to try to make the game as good as we can possibly make it, but also as safe as possible. Just not sure what that is right now.
Are you and your staff unable to discern which quarterback is better at this stage?
No, I'm not able to. I'm taking a look at 2 young quarterbacks, and again, if Ryan is unavailable for the game, take a look at both of them.
Is one better than the other?
I don't know if I'm ready to answer that.
There's always stress in getting the run game going, but in this particular situation, is it even more important to try and help alleviate some of the stress on the shoulders of 2 young quarterbacks?
Whoever our quarterback's going to end up being, we will have to be able to control the line of scrimmage. They've done a really nice job against the run in the last 3 games. Very good defensive front, play with technique. They play with, power. So yeah, that'll be, that'll be critical. Whoever plays quarterback for us, and sometimes we've had good opportunities. We've hit some double-digit runs. Guys are finishing, and then other times we weren't able to get things started in a run game. So it's a consistency thing.
Any different challenge or concern when you go against Arthur Smith and him having been intimately familiar with how you guys operate and do things?
I guess no more so than us having an idea of who Arthur is and what they want to do. It's got some good weapons on offense, and try to use the, Bijan out of the backfield. They'll run it with them. They'll throw it to him. They'll scheme some plays up. Drake London seems to be a receiver that's competitive and strong, and Pitts and Jonnu, when they get running, build really good speed, and Algier runs hard, and so I think it'll just be critical that we're aware of the different personnel that's in the game.
On what you've seen based on practice, etc. But given what you're trying to do as a football team, shouldn't you know which one is better at this point?
I mean, Will didn't play many preseason snaps, so I think that would be hard to determine. Malik's a young quarterback that hasn't had a whole lot of snaps, and so I don't know. I mean, you can say whatever you want. I don't know. We're just trying to figure out who's going to be available, and if that's Ryan, then we'll have a plan, and if that's not Ryan, then we'll have 2 quarterbacks that we'll have a role in the football game.
With that drop back passing game that you wanted to avoid because of some of the deficiencies up front,
Routinely, and over and over and over and redundant. You know what I mean? I meant when you get down in a game and you have to just basically go into a passing game, a drop back passing game, much sooner than you would like, I guess, to try to clarify that. Right.
You had mentioned the 7-step drops and just, the longer development plays. So what I was going to ask you is, with
Or the amount of guys out in the route. You know, I mean, we can drop back and throw it with 2 guys in a route. Right? Yeah, I mean, so it's like, it's just the how you build some of these things.
But with that, when you have a rookie like Levis back there, like, does it come even more important to make sure you stay out of those situations or avoid them as much as possible?
Yeah, I mean, we want to try to avoid those as much as possible. Being down in the game and forcing ourselves to throw, and I mean, you get into third down, and sometimes it's what you have to do. And so again, I just was talking about in first and second down normal offenses. There's just not a whole lot of teams from my exposure of watching that just routinely live in that. That's or second and long for that matter. And guys are changing their mentality. The coverage changes. The pass rush mentality changes on second and 10, versus second and 2.
How are Chris Moore and Josh Wiley coming out of the protocol?
Both, I think, are still in it just because they have to practice fully and then get cleared. Chris will be out there today. I don't think Josh will be out there.
Mike, through 6 games, how do you evaluate your own pass rushing and what you guys have accomplished so far? Are you happy with it, or do you want more?
We hit the quarterback 3 times the last 2 games, so that's not going to be good enough to affect the quarterback.
How involved would you expect Terrell Edmonds to be able to be this week with a quick turnaround?
Showed up with a fantastic attitude. Played in a football game Sunday night. Showed up here ready to go. Was excited. Had a great attitude. Did some stuff yesterday. So I would say that if he keeps progressing like he has in just the short amount of time that he's been here, he could potentially play.
That's Mike Vrabel at the podium. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill is going to speak to you next. Welcome back to the show. We await Ryan Tannehill's presence at the podium. Mike Vrabel won't say it, but he's not playing on Sunday. Why he's talking is an admission that they're not ready to admit that he's not playing on Sunday. But that's all well and good. If you want to play the long game, if you want to play the competitive advantage, eat it, Art. You have to prepare for all three quarterbacks, and one of them you haven't even seen yet. Whatever helps. At this point, I don't even blame him. Just whatever you have to do to win a football game. They cannot lose in those Oiler Blues on Sunday. Ryan Tannehill is at the podium now.
It's tough to compare exactly, right? It's a little bit different, but frustrating that it happened. But it's trending the right direction and healing, and I can tell that it's healing. It's feeling a lot better. Every couple of days I can notice a big difference. So hope to keep on the trend.
Was there ever a question of surgery this time around, Ryan, or was it not severe enough as the last?
No, never a question this time.
Basically, how different is it from last year? Like, is it a little bit same spot exactly, or is it different spot a little bit?
It's a high ankle sprain, so yeah, a little bit different though, because I had the surgery on it last year, so the force got spread a little differently. But it's a high ankle sprain.
So the surgery kind of helps if you do it again later. Is that?
Yeah, basically.
What's the balance of responsibility like for you this week, trying to get out there and play on Sunday, but also, if not, making sure that the younger guys are as ready as possible?
Yeah, doing everything I can physically to heal and recover, be on top of the game plan mentally, and then just helping prepare those guys in meetings, going over all the different looks, what we're looking for in the pass game, the different looks we could see in the run game, and making sure we're all on the same page.
What are the challenges playing with an ankle injury as far as limiting you on what you can do and kind of being yourself?
Yeah, anytime you deal with an injury, you're not able to move like you want to, and that's kind of the determining factor of being able to play, right? Is being able to do your job effectively and keep yourself out of harm's way, being able to move enough to be effective and not just be a sitting duck back there.
How about the push off, which was the thing that you said kind of took you out of the game in terms of the mechanics of throwing?
Yeah, no question. Got to be able to push off, not only to throw, but to step up in the pocket and get away from center, all those types of things. So definitely a big part of it.
What have you been able to do so far, and just kind of what are the next steps as you want to progress?
Yeah, just working with the rehab team in here. They're doing a great job with all the modalities and treatments. So steady on that, and just going to keep down that path.
What's the level of frustration just having to go through this again?
Definitely frustrated, right? It's not a situation you want to be in, but that's the cards that I've been dealt. So trying to keep a positive attitude as much as I can and take advantage of every day and, physically get myself on the right track, and then mentally stay engaged and be ready to go when the time comes.
Is it concerning also that not only a game set for Sunday, but then a short week turnaround right after that Thursday in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, it'll be a quick week next week, and we'll see where we're at when we get there.
Was this a hip drop tackle, Ryan, I guess, in your opinion? And I wonder also, was the last time you got hurt on the ankle, was that maybe a hip drop tackle as well?
Yeah, it was definitely a hip drop tackle this time. Kind of the same thing in LA at the end of the season last year. So, yeah, tough one there.
Should something be done? I know the NFL is considering making changes there. Is that something you think should be removed from the game, or can it be removed?
I don't know. I'd have to study it more. I know a lot of injuries, especially high ankle sprains, come from the hip drop tackle. But then at the same time, you look at defensively, how do you fully eliminate it from being in that position? So I'm probably not the guy to ask, because I've not in the on the defensive side of the ball. But yeah, it's definitely an area where injuries are caused, but it's not an easy elimination if they were to do that.
What's the progression been like as far as recovery? You went from, I guess, walking boot and crutches to Mike said you were on a scooter. When did you get off that and start walking?
Yeah, I was in a cast for a few days into the weekend. Then I was in a walking boot and scooter for a few days, and then just got off the scooter and into a shoe.
The suture that was put in place in the last surgery, is that still in place, doing its job effectively to your understanding right now?
Yeah, no question. It's I had the tightrope as part of my ankle surgery at the end of the year, so still have those cables in there, doing their job.
Ryan, what do you most remember from your first NFL start? What's the most difficult aspect of somebody who's never gone through that before, maybe having to go through it?
It's different for everybody. Mine was a long time ago. It's tough to think back, 12 years ago now. But it's a fun experience. You're learning a lot. You're taking it all in, and trying to do your best. So, every person has to cross that bridge when the time comes.
Ryan, in terms of Kevin Byard, just your thoughts on finding out he was traded, and how big is it with that leadership void in the locker room to continue to have guys step up in that?
Yeah, no doubt going to be tough to replace Kevin. A guy who has meant a lot to this organization, to the city, to this locker room for as long as I've been here and before that, So definitely a tough loss for us and tough to wrap your mind around, but we have great leaders in this locker room. We can hopefully fill that void as much as possible. It's tough, right? Like I said, Kevin was such a good quality cornerstone of this locker room, but we have other great leaders on this team, myself included, that we can hopefully fill that void as much as we can, and just keep our heads down, keep working. That's all we can do at this point.
How hard is it though when a team does move one of its cornerstone pieces to kind of just turn around and say, okay, one of our best guys is gone, still same expectations? Is that a challenge to do when it's not like an injury, it's when the team...
Yeah, no doubt it's tough. But unfortunately, that's the nature of the business, and as players, that's our responsibility is to come to work and do our best to go out and play quality football and find a way to win. Some things are out of our hands. May not like it, may not understand it, but have to control what you can control and go out and do the best job you can.
Ryan, last one. Mike said you're not practicing today, but will you be out there on the field the entire time, or will you get treatment, or what's your plan for today?
Yeah, a little bit of a combination. I'll get some treatment, make sure I'm doing everything I can, and then also want to stay engaged and in tune with the game plan and with everything that we're doing out on the field. Thank you.
No, not the music, Jackson. No. I thought this went to Gatlinburg with Lucas. No. Out of here.
You love that music.
I hate that music. That music haunts me in my sleep. That's Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill, and that is the awful press conference music that associates. That's the waiting room for them to start the damn live stream. Anyway, so he's not saying that he's not playing. I don't think he's going to play. I'm almost certain he's not going to play. I'm 99.99% positive that Will Levis is your starting quarterback on Sunday. But just to keep the illusion of Ryan Tannehill, having to game plan for Ryan Tannehill, who do you think is a harder quarterback to game plan for right now if you're the Falcons?
Will Levis. You've only seen 15 passes from Will Levis in an NFL game. Obviously, you have college tape, but you have college tape on both these guys. Malik's started, 5? I mean, he's played in
no, he
bunch.
has started
4.
3. He has started 3. He has played in 9.
Okay. So the guy who would making his NFL, he would be making his active roster debut as well as his NFL quarterback debut.
That's right. He hadn't even been the backup quarterback, and now he's going to be the starter. Let's go.
Let's ride.
No, Russell. I gave you no.
I got to run you over with it.
I don't know. I made it sound like you physically punched me with it. Like the Let's Ride hit me in the chest. I hate it here. Anyway, Levis needs to get out there. Levis needs to play. Even when Tannehill's healthy, the Tannehill experience needs to end. Like this is, and I'll continue to say it, if Tannehill gets healthy, they'll probably put him back out there, and it will not change my position. I think that Ryan Tannehill's time as the starting quarterback of the Tennessee Titans needs to conclude with that Ravens game, and that this should be Levis's job or whomever earns it. If Levis blows it, then they should give Malik a shot. Like, this is full science experiment season. And so I think that's kind of the place that I'm at with the quarterback situation. And now it puts us in a position to where we're talking about, okay, Tannehill probably going to miss Sunday. I would imagine he misses Thursday Night Football in Pittsburgh as well. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that you've got at least 2 starts to figure out Will Levis. The Falcons' defense is better than they have been, but it's still not a great unit, and Pittsburgh is obviously tough. It's a tough place to play on the road. And if Tannehill does not return to the lineup, well, guess what, Rook? Not only are you going to get your first start 8 weeks into the season, but you're going to follow that up with 3 straight road games on a short week with Thursday Night Football tossed in between there. So that's not an easy ask. You keep turning your microphone on.
What do you think about Vrabel saying they may alternate series?
No.
You think that's just bleep?
Yes, please God, Mike. Like, just to give me something to do on Monday. Please, rotate the quarterbacks. No, I don't think he's actually going to do it. Can you imagine? I mean, I would go home. Like, I would go home. I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, no, I wouldn't go home because obviously I'm paid to be there, but like, I would think about it. I would think about walking out. They did the rotating quarterback BS. I almost said the word. For God's sakes, do not do it. I don't think that's real. I just think he's an excellent troll. Mike Vrabel is an exceptional troll. And Arthur Smith is going to do a conference call with local media tomorrow at 11 a.m. I'm sorry I'm going to miss it. Because Art's just a funny guy to talk to, and he has a good relationship with Vrabel. So to get some comments on that, I think would be enjoyable for people to hear. But this is a really tough situation because not only is there the game and Will Levis and his first start, but there is the trade deadline that looms 2 days after the game. So my thing is, if you're going to move any more players, does it not almost have to be before Sunday? Now, I don't think it has to be before Sunday. And honestly, like, we'll talk about Derrick Henry more specifically because I think there went from being no market for Derrick to at least one team having significant interest in him. And we can talk about that here in just a little bit. But don't you have to move these guys? If you're a team trading for them, let's say Henry, Hopkins, Autry, guys who are in easy-to-acquire contract situations that you would probably have to eat some money on, but you would still be able to recoup some value there if you're actually going to sell off for parts. And if you're going to do the Byard thing, I think you should explore any and all opportunities. Like, I don't think you should half-ass this stuff. So I think common sense would indicate that they would almost have to move these players before the game, unless they're going to Bijan Robinson this thing. You see the NFL is investigating the Falcons, or not investigating, but inquiring about the Falcons' Bijan Robinson situation where he's out there, he's dressed, but he's not actually taking snaps. He's going in, acting like he's going to play, and then he's coming out before he actually takes a snap. He doesn't get any cares. Just a weird situation with Bijan Robinson on this past Sunday. So maybe they dress them and they don't have them do anything in Henry or Hopkins, and I mentioned Hopkins and Autry just because Autry, I think, is the best asset they have to move on the roster, truly, that could get them like actual pick value just by moving him. Derrick, I think, is a different situation. You're going to have to do some math, given that, I mean, there's still about $7 million left on his contract. So that's not a small amount for a team to absorb right now, if you're actually going to trade him to a team that's trying to win. 615-737-1045 is the number. Like I said, I would think that if I was a team trading for one of the Titans' assets, I would not let that potential asset, hit the field against the Falcons, because Derrick is durable, Hopkins is durable, Autry has been fairly durable, but you don't want to risk whatever if you're either side. If you're trying to move them and if you're trying to trade for them, that your deal could get nuked just because you played a game in between then and the trade deadline. Let's go to Kyle in Chevville up next.
Hey, Buck. What's going on, man?
Not much, buddy.
This whole Titan situation just is hard to deal with and stomach. I've been a fan since I was 10. They moved here in 99. And then they got this quarterback situation going on. They don't even want to tell us, and they're just playing games. It's so annoying. And this whole window we've had, we've blown it, and it's just getting uglier. We think it's going to stop. It's not. I don't boycott. I don't, quit watching teams, turn the radio off, the TV or anything. But I'm at the point, I'm just going to buy an A.J. Brown Eagles jersey, and every chance I get, I'm wearing it to the home games. And when we're getting blown out in the third quarter, they can point me out on the screen, dancing up there, laughing, and saying, yep, they're going to say, yeah, I bet they wish they had A.J. Brown now. You're right, Kurt Warner.
Kyle's taking that transaction particularly hard.
What did Kurt Warner say?
Apparently it was something about A.J. Brown. Maybe he meant Chris Collinsworth, who kept twisting the knife a little bit for Titans fans on the broadcast. Oh, I bet if you gave him, people
Bet
tell
they do that deal now.
Yeah, I get Chris Collinsworth a lot for who I sound like, which I mean, it's not like I don't mind Chris's voice. I don't like my own voice, but it's just the idea of Chris sitting up there because you can hear the smile on his face. Like there are a few people in broadcasting. I don't know if this is true of me or of Jackson or of Lucas or of anybody, but like I feel like when somebody is smiling, you can hear that in their tone. And to hear Chris Collinsworth smiling through the television broadcast, even though you can't see him, as he tells you, at the time when A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill were getting traded, those teams didn't want to pay them that money. I bet the Titans would do that deal again. Okay, Chris.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah, people are agreeing with the caller. Listen, man, you do whatever you want with your fandom. Like, I am not going to tell you how to process your sports grief. Everybody goes through it differently. There are more lows than highs in any level of sports. I think that's what makes the highs so great. That's the juice, right? That's the thing that gets you hooked because it doesn't come around very often. And did they blow their window? I mean, did they win a Super Bowl in the window that they had? No, they blew the window. You are correct. They had a successful run as any team that's really not the Kansas City Chiefs during the time that they were viable and a true contender in the AFC. That's not good enough for you, and that's fine. You need to hold them to championship expectations. They hold themselves to championship expectations. You can't just say that kind of stuff. You have to be able to follow through. So, yes, they did blow their window. But I do think that this is, it's something. Not every team trades away what is arguably the best wide receiver that the franchise has ever drafted, or at least the most talented. Derek Mason is still the best wide receiver to ever play for this franchise. But certainly the most talented wide receiver that the franchise has ever drafted. Not every team does that, right? So it's made this slow burn down feel a little worse because of what kind of was the first domino. But this is unfortunately for sports fans, this is just kind of the cycle of life. Now, this weird three-headed quarterback situation that they have, I will admit, they are in a really weird spot. And we talked about this coming in the season. That's why that's why pre-Hopkins, I was totally prepared to not treat this season with any kind of like seriousness or expectation, but just kind of see what they did. And now I think we're going to get the opportunity to do that, except, instead of in week 1, it's going to be week 8. Ben is in Franklin up next.
Hello. I was just wondering what your opinion was on the possibility of trading Tannehill. He's going to be out for a little bit, but there are some quarterback-needy franchises. If we're talking about dumping some salary cap and potentially even trading for some younger pieces that we could build on for the future, why not take away all that salary and build into the future?
Why would anybody trade for Ryan Tannehill?
I don't know. If he is a high ankle sprain out 2-3 weeks and then can come back, a team like, I don't know, the Jets, which I don't know their salary cap or anything, but
I just want to make sure that I'm clear, Ben. You think you're suggesting that a team would be willing to trade for him while he's unavailable?
man, in a short term, potentially, you have an experienced quarterback. If you're an experienced quarterback away from making a push, would that, even if it's not for much, for cheap, and it clears some future money for us?
Well, it doesn't clear any
Rest of
future
this
money
year.
for you. It doesn't, like, his deal is done at the end of the year. I appreciate the call. It's just, listen, I don't want to be outright dismissive. Like, it's worth asking, but no, it's not viable. Nobody's trading for Ryan Tannehill. There's no discussion of that right now, and certainly you're not going to trade for a quarterback who you'd have to probably give a new contract to on an expiring deal at 35 years old, coming off a high ankle sprain. What a 2027 seventh round pick. There's not a market for him. All right, we're doing the dumbest thing in sports this week a little later than we normally do it, but we have 2 Preds tickets to give you if you give us the dumbest thing in sports this week. We're going to do that coming up next. The Preds game that you can win tickets to, is Saturday night at Bridgestone Arena. How you give us the dumbest thing in sports this week to win the Preds tickets. The number, 615-737-1045. Mine's got to do with the Titans, and I'll tell you what it is coming up next. You want to be able to enjoy your fall. You want to be able to move comfortably, and you can't do that if you have nagging joint pain. You know this. QC Kinetics is here to help get you right. They are the nation's leader in advanced regenerative medicine that will help you get back moving again the way that you need to be. If you've been told that more steroids or surgery are your only options, don't be so fast. Get a second opinion and learn more about how you can harness your body's own healing agents to attack that joint pain. I'm talking about lasting relief. QC Kinetics doesn't mask the pain. The treatments go to the very root of the problem using concentrated healing properties placed directly in your joint to restore and repair that damaged tissue. Imagine living your life this fall with no more pain in your knees, your hips, your shoulder, your back, with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Call QC Kinetics for a free consultation, the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. We're not going to waste any time because we have 2 Preds tickets to give away for Saturday night's game in Smashville. You know how you win them? You give us the dumbest thing in sports this week. Go ahead.
Seen something this week that made you say,
"What the is this?"
That's bullshit.
What the hell? Give me some more now.
Something so mind-numbingly idiotic that you just want to get it off your chest.
Dumber than a second coat of paint.
Some idiot. You are really dumb. For real. It's the dumbest thing in sports this week on the Buck Rising Show.
615-737-1045 is the number. The dumbest thing in sports this week is made possible by the Good Feet stores of Nashville. Not doing the things you love because of your foot, leg, or back pain, the folks at the Good Feet store have been helping people like you feel better with custom arch support systems designed to alleviate foot, knee, and back pain. Locations in Nashville, Franklin, Mount Juliet, Murfreesboro, and now Clarksville, the Nashville Good Feet stores. What's the dumbest thing in sports this week? You can go to the Preds game on Saturday. I'm going to the Preds game on Saturday. First Preds game of the season.
Doing a meet and greet?
No. But I'll be there.
I'll advertise it.
Okay, very good. My dumbest thing in sports this week is my dear friend and colleague, Jared Stillman. Jared Stillman was at the press conference yesterday. He was asking Mike Vrabel questions. Well, he had not yet asked Mike Vrabel a question. Gentry Estes of the Tennessean was asking Mike Vrabel a question about his attendance at his Hall of Fame induction, Patriots Hall of Fame induction ceremony this past weekend. He sat next to Kraft in the booth for the first half of the game. He gave a speech to Patriots fans where he played 14 years and won 3 Super Bowls at halftime. Then he left the game to come back to Nashville and figure out how to beat the Falcons on Sunday. He made some comments that he had been questioning. Vrabel made some comments that Jared had been questioning, I suppose, on air, and he brought it to the press conference, and this was the exchange.
You'll never think like me, Jared. We're nothing alike. So I'm not. I'm the dumbest person in here. I promise you. I guarantee you I'm the dumbest person in here. But we will never think alike in anything that we do. So if you ever want to think how I'm thinking, just think the opposite. think like a dude, think like an athlete, think like a grown man, and then you'll think how I'm thinking.
Think like a grown man.
You remember when Troy Aikman last year said something about, I think it was a roughing the passer penalty, where Troy Aikman said something to the refs about taking the skirts off, right? Like it was a very dated phrase that Troy Aikman was using. The broadcast was very old school football guy. It made me laugh. Just because I haven't heard it since my high school football coach, something like that. Take your skirt off. That's basically what Vrabel did to Jared at a press conference. And I really love him to death. He's a friend of mine, but that was laugh out loud funny. And I'm sure he got a kick out of it because that just made him the center of attention. That's my dumbest thing in sports this week. Jackson, what do you got? Always on the phones.
All right, my dumbest thing in sports this week. I feel like this is a certain head coach who could make a regular appearances on this segment. Dabo Swinney, head coach of the Clemson Tigers. He was asked about his use of sports psychologists, and this is what the head coach of the Clemson Tigers had to say on Saturday.
So some coaches have employed sports psychiatrists. Have you ever done that?
Oh, we got him. He's probably on suicide watch right now.
No louder.
Yeah. We got him. So again, just sometimes things don't go. I mean, I'm sure things have not gone the way y'all always want. Maybe in your professional career from time to time, maybe you had a plan, you worked hard, and you did everything, and it didn't go the way you want. Well, I mean, you know what? You just gotta keep moving. You got to keep going. And so.
Just what? Like why? Like why say that?
Yeah, it's very. Dabo just says things like Dabo. It does at least. I don't know that you can ever accuse him of being like orchestrated, right? Like he doesn't think before he lets these things go.
This specific quote is very reminiscent to what Brian Kelly said last year post game after.
The execution thing?
I believe that actually was 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago.
He was still at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm in favor of execution. Like that. This is very similar.
Well, he botched the joke. Brian Kelly tried. The difference is Dabo They both tried to make jokes, and they're not funny, either of them. Like, it's just, this is like when people say, oh, it's not that hard to host like late night television or something like that. And you don't realize that, no, those are actual professional funny people that have an army of writers there to make them even more funnier than they might otherwise be. It's not an easy thing to do. Leave the jokes to the comedians, not Dabo and red-faced Brian Kelly.
It's just, I mean, like, his press conferences, I feel like 2 or 3 times a year, he just says the most outlandish thing. Like last year, it was about Tennessee flipping burgers.
That's right. And then losing to Tennessee.
Then losing to Tennessee by 2 scores.
Not ideal. What's the dumbest thing in sports this week for a chance to go to the Preds game on Saturday? Let's keep it tight because we got a couple to get to. Alex in Nashville is first.
Hey, guys, I think the dumbest thing in sports right now is Titans fans acting like we blew some golden opportunity, some golden window that we had. The only reason why we had a window the last few years is because the AFC South was the worst division in football for 4 or 5 years. Mike Vrabel's in his 6th season as a head coach. Well, before he got here, what happened in the previous 6 years? 3 head coaches, constant turnover, all kinds of just ridiculousness and bad football. Then we make a few good moves and play in a bad division and win a bunch of games during a COVID year, and people think that we should be the second coming of the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm a huge Titans fan. These words break my heart just as much as anybody, but those are the facts, period. We blew an opportunity that was created because other people were worse. We were above average in a below average division, period. There is hope, though. In Ron, we trust.
Well, it's Ran. But, yes, I appreciate the call. Here's the thing. And don't drop off the phone after you finish your call because we got to put you back on hold so Jackson can get your information if you win. You were the number 1 overall seed, all right? So it's not like it was just the AFC South that you were beating up on. You were beating legitimately good teams. And that was in a year where you weren't the best football team and still found ways. So I don't necessarily agree with that assessment. How about Jason in Laverne next?
Hey, gentlemen, good afternoon. I'll stay with the Clemson theme. I'm going with the Clemson quarterback. Saturday night in overtime, he had 18 inches to get a touchdown, decided to hold it himself rather than giving it to the running back and run about 5 to 7 yards and got absolutely stuffed. Not only was this the first time this happened, this was the second time this season this quarterback has made that call. So he did it again in Florida State, and Dabo's staying with him. So just a dumb play. I know he's an athlete, young athlete, but you think you learn after the first mistake.
Thanks for the call. Yeah, that's a really, really bad.
He Garantano'd it.
Oh, that's why you like that call, because you've lived that trauma.
I have lived that trauma,
and
yes.
It's not Garantano, it's Garantano.
He Garantano'd. He messed it up. He bleeped it up, whatever you want to say.
He JG'd.
At least he didn't fumble it and let him run it back to the red zone.
Oh, no. That's a good one by Jason and Laverne. All right, one more because we're running out of time. How about Bo in the Borough?
Hey, guys, what's happening? Got to be Devontae Adams in the post-game press conference complaining about the offense not running through him. He's this, he's that, he's this. And this is after they won the football game.
Yeah.
They won the game. He comes out and just basically blasts his coaching staff and the game plan because he didn't get the ball or wasn't it was just completely stupid on his part to do, in my opinion. And I think that's it.
And they already told him they're not training him. It's a good one. Thank you, Bo.
No doubt.
We appreciate it. 615-737-1045 is the number. That's the dumbest thing in sports this week. We'll go to break. Jackson will pick the winner, and I'll talk about a clean slate for the Tennessee Titans in Week 8. I'm Buck Rising. The final hour is next.
Good afternoon. It's 12:03 from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Jackson Williams. Titans making a few practice squad moves yesterday as they released running back Jaquez Patrick from the practice squad, signing linebacker Joseph Jones and running back Jonathan Ward to the practice squad. Ward returns to the Titans after signing to the practice squad in December 2022. He was brought back this past offseason, had a shot to make the roster, but before he suffered an injury and was waived. The Preds last night losing 3-2 to the Vancouver Canucks. Their next game is this Saturday. That game starts at 6 p.m. at Bridgestone Arena. Around the NFL, a couple players added to IR yesterday. Panthers safety Jeremy Chin and the Cardinals add tight end Zach Ertz. He is a quad strain. He's believed to make a return this season. The NBA back in action last night with 2 games to kick the season off as the Nuggets beat the Lakers 119-107. Nikola Jokic, coming off the title, has a triple-double in the opening game, 29 points, 13 rebounds, 11 assists. Suns beat the Warriors 108-104. Devin Booker in midseason form, scoring a game-high 32 to go along with 8 assists. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
It's the final hour. We're happy to have you here, whether you're hanging out on your lunch break or just jumping in. Thanks for spending a little time with us. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join into the conversation at any point. Titans and the Falcons coming up at Nissan Stadium on Sunday. You've heard from Ryan Tannehill. He is not saying that he will not play. Everybody else is, though, except for his head coach. There are some conversations being had.
Breaking sports news on 104.5 The Zone.
I hate you. Is it the urgent news that Jim Irsay's Twitter account has just flooded my televisions with?
No, this is Browns quarterback P.J. Walker will be starting over a healthy Deshaun Watson this weekend.
Okay, so that's pretty wild. That is newsworthy as we talk about changing out quarterbacks for one player or the other. Now, they're not calling Watson healthy. They're saying that he is day-to-day. But Stefanski has announced that P.J. Walker will start in Seattle on Sunday. And the Watson situation continues to be one of the most bizarre things that I've ever witnessed in the NFL. This guy is actively holding their football team back. Scary Harry says that's not really news to us. I mean, it's huge news in the AFC. What do you mean? That is massive news. The Browns are 4-2. They're a quarterback away with a $250 million quarterback on their roster. That's not news.
Fully guaranteed $235 million quarterback.
Brother, that is exactly the kind of, that is such a big warning label. Just generally, one, the fully guaranteed contract is never going to happen again. Jimmy Haslam tried to bleep all the other owners and failed, it would seem, and now is paying the price, literally paying the price of that $250 million burden on his back in ways that P.J. Walker, who was still out there getting the holy hell knocked out of him against the Colts on Sunday, still helped them go on, and the refs kind of, to a 39-38 win. Not kind of. It was some pretty bad officiating at the end of that Colts-Browns game for sure. But P.J. Walker is apparently going to give them the best chance to win a football game on Sunday, and that, to me, is pretty crazy. Okay. So we'll keep tabs on that moving forward. Speaking of a clean slate, so P.J. Walker gets a fresh start. Deshaun Watson, TBD. How about a fresh start for the Titans? That's kind of how I'm walking into Sunday's game with. Nissan Stadium, Gonna be. Honestly have no idea what to make of the vibe. I know people were excited. They went 20. What is it going to be? 28 days between home games. Something like that was it was either on the second or the first, the last home game that they played.
The first.
So they're going 28 days between home games. People were juiced because the last home game that they won, they beat the holy hell out of the Cincinnati Bengals, even though London was technically a home game. We're not going to count it. Oilers throwback day, the first of two that they'll have. They've got the Falcons at home, and they've got the Texans at home later in the season. In fact, I think Jags are the season finale here in Nashville. But Texans will be later in the year. And so vibes look like they might be up at Nissan Stadium until, the bottom falls out. You trade Kevin Byard. Derrick Henry rumblings are starting to become more real, and we'll get into some of that detail here in just a second. But I have no idea what the atmosphere is going to be like on Sunday. Now, the two of you are going to be stuck in that dark little box that they keep you in on a weekly basis. The shadows.
We're looking to renovate. Maybe put a pool table back there and, make it more of a lounge, less scary.
No, because when I send Bert to the shadows, it's not the production studio, even though he just flings himself across the production studio in ways that are probably not good for him, which I don't necessarily care about, or the equipment, which I do care more about. But like where you exist right now is not the shadows. Where you exist is kind of purgatory to me. Like that little room looks like
purgatory.
That's right. I also imagine there's a smell.
Not really. It's not bad.
See? Not really. Not really is an admission. It's
How's
okay.
It smell in there?
It smells lovely in here.
It probably smells like coffee.
It smells.
There's a coffee.
It smells like whatever kind of skin lotion Slay uses, which I got to figure out because it's phenomenal. And Eighth and Roast coffee because I made some Eighth and Roast coffee, and Eighth and Roast provides all of our coffee now, which I love. Eighth and Roast is my favorite coffee in Nashville. Absolutely. And so we have a giant bag of Eighth and Roast coffee that I've been, I'm consuming entirely too much caffeine. I'm going to go insane. I'm gonna be on edge here, and if I'm not already, in just a little bit. But yes, it smells like Eighth and Roast coffee and Slay's lotion.
Maybe when you find out what lotion Slay uses, hand some to Bert. Because if there is a smell, that's like...
Well, you do have the excuse of Bert being in there by himself for 4 hours before any of us get here in the wee hours of the morning. He looked particularly disheveled today, but I'm not sure if that's because of the conversation he and I had yesterday, where he's just been, consuming cigarettes at an already, cigarette consumption deeply unhealthy anyway, but he's been consuming them at a rate that I fear is going to keel him over on the balcony as we speak.
Dear God.
Yeah, I'm concerned. So I feel like I'm walking into Nissan Stadium. I don't know what the vibes are going to be. You two are going to be back there, so you're not going to know either.
Joseph, just keep digging that knife.
That's right.
Bud.
Joseph nodding sadly. Weather's supposed to be nice. All of the things that should go on at a normal football game will go on in a normal football game, except the starting quarterback's going to be different. The idea of Derrick Henry trade rumors, which we will discuss because they're becoming less and less rumor and more concrete here in just a little bit. You've got that looming over your head. And then there's the idea of, all right, what are you rooting for? Because a lot of you are rooting for them to just bottom out and to get the best possible draft pick. And I think some of you may mistake tanking for being bad, like honestly. Like tanking is the act of intentionally throwing games. The Tennessee Titans, by trading a 30-year-old safety on the 14th ranked passing defense, are not tanking. They are still out there trying to win games. They just might come by losing honestly. So that's kind of the way that I'm walking in there on Sunday. It's basically a whole new season. It's new left tackle, new quarterback. Hell, the running back may not be there by Sunday. If I was, a team interested in Derrick Henry, I sure as hell wouldn't let him take snaps in that game. And if I was the Titans trying to move him, I wouldn't play him in that game. But we'll see. So I think that while, you feel like your season might be over, I'm kind of treating this as a whole new deal. Because now we start a different level of evaluation. Now we start a different level of like consuming football, where you're going to see the bones of how whatever they're trying to build into the future is going to start to be built. And whether the foundation of that is solid or if the foundation of that is flawed, that begins Sunday at Nissan Stadium. A lot of people interested in transactions. This is a team that's going to be worth monitoring if transactions are your bag. But there are football games to be played around the transactions that this team is probably going to make and has already made that are going to tell you a lot about what this thing might look like moving forward into the future. So, speaking of the future, will Derrick Henry be a part of it in even the short term? We can talk about this coming up next. 615-737-1045 is the number. The question that I want to ask the audience, and we can get to this as well, what's the best remaining trade asset that the Titans have to bargain with? We'll take your phone calls. I'll give you some information on what the Titans are exploring at the trade deadline. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help you with your performance. If you feel like your performance has suffered as you've started to age, your body starts to change, erectile dysfunction is common for a lot of guys. If you are somebody who's dealing with ED, don't be like most men who wait a year or longer to seek help. Visit the TennesseeMen'sClinic.com to learn how they can help you. If you're dealing with ED, all you need is a support system in place that will get you back to performing like you have not in years. They have an experienced staff who will help you find the treatment path that makes the most sense for you and will help you work through any stigmas that you may be dealing with associated with ED. There's no need to wait. Go visit one of their 2 locations, downtown Nashville or in Cool Springs, and find out all the information that you need to know about ED treatments and all the other things that they offer at the TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Running in circles. Feels familiar, doesn't it? That's the life cycle of the NFL. You have a moment in the sun, you come crashing down. It all happens very, very quickly, it would seem, and that seems to be the part of the process that the Titans are getting ready to go through now. The question is, having already moved Byard, whether or not they're willing to make the decision or make public the decision that they're going to start Will Levis on Sunday or not, this is now a quote-unquote fresh start. You may view it as your season being over. I don't necessarily think that's true. It's not over really until it's absolutely over. And at 2-4 at the bottom of the AFC South, the division that we thought was going to be worse than it actually turns out to be. Colts look better. Texans look better. Jags look to be continuing to improve. And the Titans are doing the exact opposite. But I wouldn't rule things out just yet. The question is, if you're gonna make the Byard move, if you're gonna move the quarterback or move on from the quarterback, and I don't know that they'll move on from Ryan Tannehill outright, but at least for the immediate, they have to. What else needs to happen here? Now, Jordan Schultz of now Bleacher Report. I think Jordan announced his new position with Bleacher Report as their lead NFL insider yesterday. He was doing a Q&A on a live stream for Bleacher Report, and he brought up the Titans specifically. This was Jordan Schultz via Bleacher Report.
I've asked around the league as well over the last 24 hours, subsequent to the Byard trade, what's your take on the Titans? And the sense is overwhelmingly that everyone really is available, and that really starts with Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins. I think in Henry's case, he just turned 30 years old. He's the former Offensive Player of the Year in 2020. He is second to Eddie George all time in terms of Titans rushing yards, and really, I think will go down as one of this generation's great running backs. And I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Tennessee can command some value for him. It won't be what it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago, but he still has shown that he can be a bell cow running back, 20-plus touches. I know they have Tyjae Spears, their rookie out of Tulane, that they really like. He's been on the field, but it's still Henry's backfield, although we've seen his percentage of snaps over the last 3 years go from about 70 to about 58, 60% this year. And so with that in mind, I think there's certainly a chance. It wouldn't surprise me if Henry were moved.
I would definitely agree with that assessment. Now, what I don't, or at least what I haven't been able to confirm, Schultz is saying that everybody's available. I am willing to say that Jeff Simmons is not available. Like, every player is available. Everybody has a price. Truly, there's nobody who's outright untouchable, but if you had to assign the term nearly untouchable to anybody on the roster, Jeff, who just signed a contract here, is not going anywhere. I don't think that they'd move young players, whether that's Traylon Burks or Chig Okonkwo. Hell, I don't even know if you could move Chig for anything right now. You want to talk about underwhelming? That has been the Chig Okonkwo season thus far. But Henry and Hopkins, all right. I think they would be more inclined to keep Hopkins. Hopkins is as quarterback friendly as any aging wide receiver could be, and you're going to need a stabilizing presence. Whether Hopkins wants to be that or not is a different story, but that is how they view Hopkins internally. That's how they viewed Hopkins before the season started when the quarterback situation was Tannehill. It's also how they were going to justify bridging the gap from Tannehill to whomever comes next, because Hopkins can help you do that. Henry, he didn't have a market on Monday. They traded Byard on Monday. It opened up the doors for at least more teams to sniff around. Now, I know that there is an AFC team that is interested in acquiring Derrick Henry. The question is the compensation going to be right? And I think if you're actually serious about moving Derrick Henry, because teams don't have cap space, and you're talking about anywhere between $6.5 million or $7 million that a team would have to take on remaining on Derrick's current deal. You're probably going to have to buy a pick. Buy a better pick. What I mean when I say buy a pick, they can, just as the Dolphins did with Ryan Tannehill not that long ago. Miami got a 4th and a 7th for Ryan Tannehill, which was a pretty good deal for a backup quarterback at the time. Now, that backup ended up being a failsafe because they needed a veteran option to go to in case Marcus couldn't work. So there was more value assigned to that particular backup. But a 4th and a 7th was a decent deal for Tannehill, who Miami couldn't wait to get rid of. Miami, to make the deal go through, did what? They paid the rest of what was on Ryan Tannehill's salary. Ryan Tannehill was costing you next to nothing while you worked through those first couple of years and ultimately before the 2020 year where you did through the 2019 season before you ultimately offered him an extension in 2020. That would be the thing that would signal to teams that they are most serious about moving Derrick Henry because they have cap space to eat some of this deal. They are a top 5 team in terms of available cap space. They've done a couple of different moves to make this work. Offloading Byard is not inconsequential here. Over the cap has them in effective cap space at $11.019 million. Derrick, again, is going to cost a team between 6.5 or 7. If you told a team, hey, I'll eat 5.5 if you give me a 4th, a 2024 4th, let's say, not a 2025, because remember that the Byard picks have more value since they are for the upcoming draft, not a future draft. The compensation would have to be right on the side of a team interested in acquiring Derrick, but I think the only way that they really get a deal done is if they're willing to eat some money here. And I think it's possible. They have prepared themselves for this. That's why the cap space, the effective cap space, on October the 25th looks the way that it does. I don't know that they built this in with the idea that they may have to make these moves, but it would be great foresight if they did. Jordan Sims says, why would a team trade for a player who's going to be a free agent after the season and not cost any picks? Well, because Derrick Henry is still a viable asset to a team that's legitimately contending. Teams that I could think of off the top of my head: Buffalo, Dallas, Baltimore, all teams that could benefit from a player like Derrick Henry. It is just a question of, is a team willing to take that on, basically give up decent draft capital for a role player? Because that's what he is now. We don't think of Derrick Henry as a role player. He's not been for the vast majority of his time here. But he is now relegated to a largely two-down back who is more your closer than anything. It's why Tajay Spears continues to keep pace with him in terms of snap counts. When they get into passing situations, Derrick comes off the field. And I think in an honest moment, now I'm not speaking for Tim Kelly. I wouldn't speak for Tim Kelly. I couldn't speak for Tim Kelly. But I think if you asked Tim Kelly in an honest moment if Derrick was more a help or a hindrance to what he's trying to accomplish offensively, I bet he'd tell you life would be a little smoother if he didn't have to work around Derrick Henry. Now, I think that sounds blasphemous to a lot of you, but there's a lot of offensive coordinators in the league who'd tell you the same thing. He's past the peak of his powers. He's going to be 30 later this year. He's expensive, but I don't think that matters as much as it might. Again, you have to be willing to eat the money. And I think that if you could get a deal done for Derrick Henry, you do it today. If you're Rand Carthon. In fact, I know Rand Carthon, if he could get a deal done, he'd do it today for Derrick Henry. But you can't trade the second all-time leading rusher for the franchise. You can't trade the most beloved player that they've had in the past, 10, 15 years of Titans football. You can't do it for pennies on the dollar, even as the running back market has just been taking a hatchet to this offseason. He matters. It's just he doesn't matter to other teams as much as he matters to you. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. We'd be happy to have your opinion on the situation. How about Skip in Hendersonville next?
Hey, Buck. Hey, on trading Henry, I understand the market value for him or what we think it is and what other teams would think it is, but my concern with letting him go is what do you have left over?
Mm-hmm.
You got a rookie running back who was, to be the alternative to Derek, not the replacement for, and then a couple of preseason darlings who've never panned out in a regular season for us or anybody else.
Well, Skip, I mean, you say that he's not intended to be the replacement for Derek, but I don't think that that's true. I think he's very much a part of the plan to replace Derek.
I think maybe a long time, but not this season, right? This has been they've had a bunch of nicknames floating around, but it's been a 1-2 punch. It's never been, okay, Derek is trailing off and this is going to be our replacement guy for him.
I think their snap counts would tell you.
Take the pounding.
I think the snap counts would tell you otherwise, but I understand what you're saying about the lack of depth behind him, and thank you for the call. So they have running backs on the practice squad. They released Jaquez Patrick from the practice squad yesterday. They brought back Joe Jones, the linebacker, and I need to look up in my email the name of the other running back. Jackson, do you have it?
Jonathan Ward.
Jonathan Ward, who
Somebody was not paying attention to my sports update.
Well, I was going to be cruel to you during your sports update, but then I felt bad, which should make you feel even worse.
It did.
Good.
Day 3, spirits broken.
Yeah. Gotta host better, gotta produce better.
Hey, don't let me into this.
Buddy.
You're the one who didn't know the running back's name.
Jonathan Ward. He was here during training camp. I know him. He wore 33. Yes, that guy. That
Deion
guy.
Lewis Jr.
There he is. It's the easiest. Listen, you've already replaced Derrick Henry once. It's not that. I mean, let me not operate in extremes. It's not going to be easy to replace Derrick Henry, but they've already done it once in 2021. Deontay Foreman, who is getting a second career life out of this, was a huge part of the reason the Bears won a football game on Sunday, had a career rejuvenation literally off the couch because he effectively replaced Derrick Henry. Deontay Foreman is just, he's a league average running back, right? The replacement level running back in not a great situation, but still capable of getting the job done when you need a running back to shoulder the load. I know that people don't like to hear it, and Derek is singular. Absolutely. He's singular in the fact that he has been the only one to have to carry the ball for them in ways that they're divvying this up everywhere else around the league because it's not sustainable for any other running back to do that. Derek is an incredible player. But just as they moved on from Jarrell Casey at the time that they did, and as smart teams typically sell high on depreciating assets when they do, Derek is not absolved from this conversation just because you love him more than the other guys. He matters more than the other guys to the franchise. But it's like Kevin Byard, right? We played that audio of me asking Byard the question about, can it be good to get away for the bye? And Byard saying, no, I just want to get back in the building, find as many ways I can to make more plays and help this team. And what ultimately ended up being the thing that helped the team most is Byard being moved. I'm not saying that the Tennessee Titans can't be beneficiaries of Derrick Henry's skills or skill set anymore. I'm just saying, is he not more beneficial to them for the assets that he might bring? You're going to move on from him. Do you want to wait? Do you want to rip the Band-Aid off? That's not an easy decision, by the way. Like, I don't envy Rand Carthon. I really don't. He's having to make some tough calls in year one, right out the gate. Cutting Lawan, cutting Ben, moving Byard. Getting a deal done with Jeff was a big win for him, and everything else that's come to pass. The quarterback situation, this is not an easy first year for a general manager to navigate. And he's doing so in stride thus far. This is a big one because they're open for business. The Tennessee Titans are absolutely open for business on these players. It's just a matter of, can you get the compensation to make it worth the headache? Dante is in Nashville up next. Hey, Dante.
What's going on, Buck? How you doing today, bud?
Great, boss.
Man, so here's the deal. We have an abysmal offensive line. We have an abysmal offensive coordinator. The only spark that we have is Derrick Henry. Imagine, how much more he's getting in the backfield. Without Henry, there is no essence of offense for the Titans. So I get the part where it's like, he has a value, but a value for what? I mean, if we replaced him by somebody that was a highly underappreciated back in that, we were a run-first team, and Foreman came in and took that load and could pound the ball and produce similar outcomes. But if you look at Tyjae Spears' build and kind of what you've seen from him, he's more of a shifty back. He's not a take 3 or 4 hits at the line of scrimmage and keep it going kind of guy, which is why Derrick Henry has been less effective. But if you see, he's getting hit a lot more often than he was last year behind the line of scrimmage and still picking up 3 to 4 yards. I mean, so if you take him out of the scenario, the one tool that you can almost rely on to more or less create a game for himself, what do the Titans have?
Well, they don't have anything right now, I guess is my point, Dante. It's good for 2 wins. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not – I get what you're saying because you got the King Cat touchdowns, you got the feel-good from Cincinnati, and thank you for the call, but like for what? You know what I mean? It's the Byard decision, right? But it's plus some. Trading Kevin Byard was the right move. Trading Kevin Byard was a difficult move. Trading Kevin Byard was ultimately in the best interest of the franchise. It's not going to feel like it. However Derrick Henry's end with the Titans comes, whether it's by trade in the next couple of days, whether he plays against the Falcons and they move him after that, whether he plays out the string here, and I don't know what he does beyond that in 2023 because while I think that Spears makes it viable to bring him back, I really don't think they're interested in doing it. Beyond making you feel good about seeing him out there, and listen, he's the one that will legitimately affect ticket sales. You're taking a huge amount of responsibility if you move the only thing that people are still showing up to see. Truly. I mean, you're going to be fans of the logo, you're going to be fans of the uniform because that's the way that I think most fans operate. Less and less so in modern day sports, by the way. I think most or maybe not most people, but I think a lot of people, particularly younger generations of sports fans, are more fans of players than they are of teams. So you do risk fracturing that because he's phenomenal. It's been my great privilege to cover what I think is ultimately going to end up being a Hall of Fame player. And I also think if you can find a deal for him, you move him. You move him. You have to make the difficult decisions. Hopkins, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it, but that doesn't mean that it's not viable. I still think that Autry is the best thing on their roster that they could get real juice for, and that would suck too, but he's an expiring deal. You've already paid. He's more affordable to acquire. You wouldn't have to eat money, or if you did have to eat money, you'd have to eat a hell of a lot less money to get a team to take on Danico Autry. But the most noise that I've heard in the last 24 hours has been specifically about Derrick. Last call for phone calls, 615-737-1045 is the number. If you would like to get in on the conversation, we'd be happy to have you. We'll update the polls and wrap things up for today. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Two Rivers Ford is the place that I trust as the best car buying experience in Nashville. It's not just me. If you don't take my word for it, 40 years of serving Middle Tennesseans with honesty and integrity. There is no better car buying experience than the Two Rivers Ford experience. And I can speak to that personally as a customer. No matter how you like to shop, Two Rivers Ford always goes above and beyond to make the burden of buying a vehicle as easy as humanly possible. Me, for example, my schedule gets really busy. It's not always convenient for me to go out to Mount Juliet, but I desperately needed to replace my 2012 Ford Escape. Sugar, hated to let her go, but needed a new vehicle. So I went out to Two Rivers Ford, and I said, hey, guys, I don't know if I necessarily have all the time in the world to do this the conventional way. They said, it's easy. You can order your next vehicle online. I custom ordered my 2022 Ford Explorer with the color that I wanted, the customizable options that I wanted, and it was delivered right to my door. You can shop the old-fashioned way. Two Rivers Ford always makes it great when you go out and visit them in Mount Juliet. Their non-commissioned sales staff are there to put zero pressure on you because they're making a paycheck whether they sell you a car that day or not. I'm a customer of Two Rivers Ford. Coach Mack, DeAndre Hopkins, Dawn Davenport, Ramon Foster, and hundreds of thousands of others over 40 years here in Middle Tennessee love the experience at Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people. Last call for phone calls if you got them. We'll update the polls momentarily. Speaking of safeties, Kevin Byard's replacement, it would seem, at least for Sunday's game, Elijah Molden is going to join us on the radio show tomorrow. Have a lot to talk about with Mr. Molden, so you can look forward to that at about 11:15 tomorrow. Don't forget, former Titans center Ben Jones going to be in studio with us on Friday. We'll have much to discuss as his former teammates continue to be rumored to be traded or get actively traded. We'll see if Derrick Henry is still a Tennessee Titan by the time that Benny joins us in studio Friday afternoon. Phones, Darrington has been waiting patiently. Hey, bud.
Hey, man, look, after the last few calls I made, I tried to be as chivalrous. I tried to be respectful of the fans and, just trying to be honorable. I mean, I noticed what you said and stuff. But, okay, enough's enough. You're connected, Buck. I need your connections. You think you can get me with somebody in the Tennessee organization? I want to be one of the people to help pull some of these signs down with these players who ain't worth nothing no more. Kevin Byard, get him out of here. He wasn't producing this year any darn way. Gone. Bye. See you. Next. Derrick Henry, he's on the decline. Come on, people. If y'all like him like y'all say you do, let that man go out somewhere and maybe win something. You know what? They like doing business with Philly so much. Sit him up there. They could probably win a championship. If you care about Derrick Henry, if you really don't care about him like y'all say y'all, what y'all showing that y'all don't, keep him as a Titan for the rest of his life. He'll never win nothing, no way. I'm just saying, let's make it make sense. We got Can't Get Right and Duke's mayonnaise poster boy about to be the quarterback this Sunday. I was told if you got two quarterbacks, you ain't got no quarterback. And every Tennessee ain't got no quarterback. They ain't got no nickelback, no lineback, no running back. They ain't got nothing right now. So don't be blaming it on what it is. Don't be blaming what's happening. You ain't got no personnel. Hey, man, I'll go back to listening. Thanks, guys.
He sounded like he's been waiting to get that one off his chest. Woo! He's back. Football Fred says, the decline. Derrick is not on the decline. His age has just increased. Physically, he is in his prime. Well, he's not running away from people the way that he used to. Like, he had the 29-yard touchdown against Baltimore.
I was against the Chargers.
Excuse me, the Chargers. No.
It was Chargers. He had a 64-yard run against the Ravens.
That's right. So, I mean, Derrick declining does not mean that he's like a bad player, but there's no question that Derrick Henry at nearly 30 is not at the peak of his powers anymore. That declining does not mean bad. That's okay. But, Darrington, always opinionated. Let's see if Jody in Hendersonville has something for us. Hey, Jody.
Hey, Buck. How are you today?
Great.
Hey, three things. One is the NFL is a copycat league, and the big thing that seems to be everybody's using is the motion cheat that Miami uses, San Francisco uses, putting a wide receiver in motion and then turning him up the field. How come we don't employ that? Second one is we have so many tight ends on our offensive line, Raider, Wesco. We never throw to them. Why don't you take them off the roster, put more tackle-eligible plays in for guys who supposedly know how to block? And the third one is, with the motion cheat, why don't you make Tajay Spears more of a Deebo Samuel type, employ him in that way?
Well, Jody, that just to stop you quickly, they do that with Spears.
But you could at the same time, couldn't you not keep Henry on the field like Deebo has?
They've been doing that. You've seen them do that this year. Like they've done that.
But let's employ some more of that. That way.
Oh, you want more? Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean that's something that they've had in the playbook. I appreciate the call. And listen, to Wiley and Chig's credit, like as underwhelming as Chig's season has been from people who were projecting him to do much more, I think he has improved as a blocker. Now, how much that matters in the grand scheme of things, if he's not an overwhelmingly well-rounded tight end, you need a little more from him. But I don't think that the tight ends have been a problem. And you did see more tackle-eligible stuff with NPF, right? And then he got a penalty because he was lined up over the tight end. So, operational stuff. These things do exist. You may not see every play. That's okay. We're here to provide you some context. But, that is something that they have currently deployed. Last one, Jason in Lebanon.
Hey, guys. So, first off, just want to give you guys kudos. I'm a 911 dispatcher in Nashville, and we normally get our sports and everything like we're in the world of mime. We just get to see the mouth moving and not really get to see what anybody says. But luckily, we get to listen to you guys in between our calls, or any kind of radio station. But I definitely listen to you guys. And thank you for that. You definitely bring some clarity to some of the chaos that we put up with today. So I want to thank you guys for being there for us when we're able to do that. But my question basically is, with our future players, like our players that are solidified that are going to be part of our team, is there any kind of player input about who they would like to play with or who they would like to have on the team? Do they go to them at all, or is it just strictly business, strictly money? And if you could put me on hold to listen, that'd be greatly appreciated.
I got you. Thank you for the call, Jason, and for the kind words. We appreciate that. Players have been consulted before. It's not every player. Like they didn't tell Ryan Tannehill that they were drafting Will Levis. They didn't tell Ryan Tannehill that they were drafting Malik Willis. They didn't tell Ryan Tannehill that they weren't drafting a wide receiver, but were actively pursuing DeAndre Hopkins. So, I think Derrick Henry has been asked before. Hell, Ben Jones, and Ben will tell you this when he comes in here on Friday, Ben used to go to John Robinson's office and talk to him about players. So it depends on who you are, but you got to earn that with that organization. And with that, we'll send it to polls.
Hello, everyone listening to the Buck Rising Show. This is Benjamin Kenobi, better known as Obi-Wan. I have but one thing to say. Lucas, use the Force. Use the Force, Lucas, to help interpret what the hell Chewie is saying. Oh, scrap that rubbish.
Lucas, I am not your father. I repeat, I am not your father, nor am I Buck's father.
I was once a Jedi Knight, and what I'm trying to say is, Lucas, it's time to update the final poll results here on the Buck Rising Show. Do it now.
I am not Lucas Panzica, but these are the polls, and they are presented by Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers sells below MSRP on all non-specialty new Fords. Poll, what is the dumbest thing in sports this week? UW going Buck being emotional about Kevin Byard. Got a little sappy yesterday. Karen Peak says anything Jim Harbaugh does.
Yeah, the Khakis seem to have a mind of their own, whether they're actually in control of Jim Harbaugh, whether that's where the brain lies, in the seat of the khaki pants. Who's to say? But I think that the Michigan situation, if they end up not being able to compete in this year's Final Four because of something as silly as sign stealing, that will hurt for a lot of Michigan fans.
What team makes the most sense in a Derrick Henry trade? 40% saying the Ravens, 27% say Cowboys, 24% say Bills, and then we have some write-ins. We have the Eagles, the Lions getting some love here in the replies.
I have consistently heard that the Ravens are the most interested team in Derrick Henry services.
What kind of compensation should the Titans get in a potential Derrick Henry trade? Karen Peak back again says a second round minimum. Puka going with at least a fourth or fifth. UW going a fourth and a seventh.
If you can get a fourth, I think that would be great. But I do think that listen, if you're going to do a deal, for example, with Baltimore doesn't have the cap space to take on his contract. You have to eat some money if you really want to move this deal.
All right. What is your confidence level in Will Levis starting this Sunday? 20% say a lot, 46% say so-so, and 34% say not much.
I have no idea. Can that be an answer? TBD. I have no idea what to make of Will Levis. I've only seen him practice for about a month and a half and then 20 snaps of a preseason game.
And to take accountability, that was Jalil Anibaba calling me in the middle of my poll update.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Oh,
what do you
didn't?
mean? What do you mean he was calling you in the middle of the poll? Does he not know that we're doing a radio show?
I don't think he does.
Okay. That's okay.
Those are the polls.
That's the show. Elijah Molden tomorrow. We will certainly dive into some more stuff. We'll talk about the Falcons. There's an actual football game to be played. This has been very TMZ all week long, and it probably not going to end the TMZ element of it until next Tuesday, but we do have a football game to talk about in the meantime, so we'll do so tomorrow. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Blaine and Mickey are next. Check out the install later tonight, 6 p.m. in your favorite podcast feed or on the 104.5 The Zone YouTube channel.